AI video has become incredibly good at creating moments, beautiful moments, epic moments, cinematic moments. With just a prompt, creators can generate shots that would have required expensive cameras, large crews, and significant budgets only a few years ago. On a visual level, it's honestly amazing how far the technology has come. But most AI films still fail. And the reason has almost nothing to do with image quality. After producing 3 seasons and 24 episodes of an AI-generated mockumentary series called Barefoot Adventures, I learned something important. The biggest obstacles weren't technical, they were creative. Most AI projects don't fail because the technology isn't good enough. They fail because the storytelling isn't strong enough. And that's actually good news, because storytelling problems can be fixed. When people first discover AI filmmaking, they naturally focus on visuals. And honestly, who can blame them? The visuals are usually what grab your attention first. You type a prompt. A few minutes later, something appears that never existed before. That experience feels magical. It certainly did for me. I spent countless hours generating scenes, beautiful landscapes, interesting characters, dramatic camera movements, creative visual ideas. And for a while, that was enough. Every generation felt exciting. Every result felt like a breakthrough. But eventually I noticed something. I would generate a clip, watch it, maybe share it, and then move on. The clip looked impressive, but it didn't stay with me. There was no emotional connection, no context, no reason to revisit it. And that's when I realized something. A collection of great scenes is not a movie. It's not a television show. And it's definitely not a story. A story requires connections. It requires context. It requires people and places that matter. And this is where most AI projects begin to struggle. They generate moments, but they never build worlds. The first major problem I see in AI filmmaking is the lack of recurring characters. Or more accurately, the lack of truly recognizable recurring characters. A creator generates a character, then generates another scene, then another. And slowly the character starts changing. The hairstyle shifts, the face changes, the age becomes inconsistent. The clothing evolves into something completely different. And eventually you're looking at a completely different person. The audience may not consciously notice every visual change, but they absolutely notice the lack of familiarity. Because stories aren't built on appearances. They're built on relationships. People become invested in characters. They learn who they are. They begin to anticipate how they'll react. And that emotional familiarity is what keeps audiences engaged. One of the biggest lessons I learned while creating Barefoot Adventures was that consistency matters far more than perfection. Maya didn't need to look identical in every frame. She needed to feel like Maya. The audience needed to understand her personality.
Oh, no.
Her role,
Closed?
her relationships,
For how long?
her perspective.
The kids will be
And once
so
that happened,
disappointed.
viewers started treating her like a real character rather than an AI generation. The second problem is story structure. And honestly, I think this is one of the biggest mistakes AI creators make. It's very tempting to generate first and figure out the story later. After all, the technology encourages experimentation. You generate one cool scene, then another, and another. And before long you have 20 unrelated clips. Each one looks interesting, but none of them connect. I eventually realized I had to reverse the process. I needed to know the story before generating the scenes, not after. That meant outlining episodes, planning conflicts, identifying emotional beats, and deciding where the story would end before I started generating. Every episode of Barefoot Adventures followed a structure. There was a setup, a challenge, a turning point, and a resolution.
They're delayed until next week.
Sometimes the events changed dramatically, but the structure remained familiar.
Where are the
And structure helps audiences stay engaged because they always understand where they are in the story. Another trap many AI creators fall into is chasing spectacle. And honestly, I understand why. The technology is so good at creating visually impressive moments. Huge action sequences, massive environments, wild concepts. Things that would
me.
normally be impossible
Like
for an
me.
individual creator.
Like me.
But here's the surprising part. Those scenes are rarely the ones people remember. People remember
She's
emotion.
laughing. Yeah.
They remember
She-
relationships.
no.
They remember moments that make
She
them
never
laugh,
does that in
or
pictures.
think, or
I
feel
wore
something.
A tie for
When I look
picture
back at
day.
Barefoot Adventures,
It
some of the
clips
scenes
on.
I'm most proud of are
It clips
incredibly
on.
simple. A teacher helping a child. A
Do we
quiet
think this is going
conversation.
to help or make things
A
worse?
moment of uncertainty.
At this
A
point,
small
either
personal
would at least
victory.
end the suspense.
Nothing visually
She's live.
spectacular, but
You have
emotionally
got
meaningful.
to see our sensory trail.
And that taught me an important lesson. Emotion scales far better than spectacle. Audience connection isn't created by bigger explosions. It's created by stronger relationships. The fourth major problem is world building, or rather, the lack of world building. Many AI projects constantly jump from one location to another. A spaceship, a castle, a coffee shop, a jungle, a city. Every scene exists somewhere new, but real worlds become believable through familiarity. Audiences learn locations. They understand geography. They develop expectations. They know where people work, where they gather, where important events happen. One accidental advantage of Barefoot Adventures was that the world remained relatively small. The same classrooms, the same parking lot, the same break room, the same outdoor areas, again and again. Those repeated locations helped create the illusion of a living world, even when individual scenes weren't perfect. So, if these are the problems, how do we fix them? The answer is surprisingly simple. Stop thinking like a prompt engineer and start thinking like a showrunner. Showrunners don't begin with scenes. They begin with characters. They begin with relationships. They begin with conflicts. They think about how people grow, how worlds evolve, and how stories unfold over time. Before generating anything, ask yourself a few questions. Who are the main characters? What do they want? What challenges are they facing? Where does the story take place? What changes by the end? If you can't answer those questions, generating more scenes probably won't solve the problem. The technology matters. Absolutely. But technology is ultimately just a tool. The audience isn't watching your story because the lighting looks good. They're watching because they care about what happens next. When I started Barefoot Adventures, I thought the hardest part would be generating video. I assumed the challenge was technical. I assumed the solution would come from better tools, better prompts, better models. But after 3 seasons, I realized something. The real challenge wasn't creating scenes. It was creating meaning. It was creating relationships. It was creating a world people wanted to revisit. Characters, relationships, worlds, stories. Those things mattered far more than any individual generation. And I suspect they'll continue to matter no matter how advanced AI becomes. Because the future of AI filmmaking won't belong to the people who generate the prettiest clips. It will belong to the people who learn how to tell stories. And the creators who combine storytelling with these incredible new tools are going to build things we've never seen before. Honestly, I think we're just getting started.
And we're just getting started.